Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels in the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
Well, I guess we found the book that made Steven reconsider our whole marriage.
Hey, we took a little break there, huh?
It's been a rough year, and we went through some shit.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well,
I mean,
kinda.
everybody went through some
Yeah.
shit in the past year. But, yeah. Mainly Steven's mom got sick. Not COVID then.
Right.
And things got very stressful. And plus, making him read the books.
Then she took pity on me.
I took pity on him.
Because she noticed how miserable I was.
It made the weekends miserable.
Spending a large chunk of my free time reading a book that quite often was not the greatest.
Well, that is the point of the show.
Yeah.
That they're not the greatest. But, yeah, trying to get a book in on the weekends was making him miserable. So we just stopped.
Yeah. And so we'll start with kind of a new format where...
Yeah. Well, so we were guests on our friend's podcast, Video Store Rejects, talking about the Studio Ghibli movie, Porco Rosso.
Which just means the red pig?
The red pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so they were like, they did the whole... where can they find you? Or what do you have? And I'm like, well, we used to have a podcast. It's still up.
And apparently people are still downloading.
Yeah, that's the wildest thing. I checked our stats after that. Y'all are still out there, or new people are there, or something. I'm going to guess some of it is because of the Netflix Babysitters Club.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Which I freaking love. For the record, you were in and out when I was watching it.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right. Yeah,
it's so diverse. It's wonderful. And I'll get into that another time, I bet. But anyway, so we were saying, we used to have this. And one of them was like, well, you could still do it, just you tell him about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I could.
And I could still do something I enjoy, which is talking with you.
Right.
And... and still at the end be able to tell what I've been reading and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to give it a try, and we are open to any suggestions.
And my voice may sound a little different today than in the past. I've been pretty sick this week.
Pretty sick.
So
not COVID.
I'm about 85%, and that includes my voice. So
yeah.
Hopefully I'll be back to full time.
Yeah, it's much better than it was.
That point, like after a sickness, when you get toward the end of the day and then you realize you haven't thought about being sick all day, and that's how you realize that you're better again.
And you're like, hell yeah.
I'm hoping that's going to be in the next day or two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But yeah, so speaking of sickness, we haven't had COVID the whole year because we've just been staying at home.
Yep.
It's pretty much where we were last time. You're working at home. I started school again, though, and that's awesome and fun, all online. So that's like the only change.
It's been so great because, I had many of us at work had actually mentioned stuff about, hey, what's the possibility of us working from home? Mm-hmm. Because, we sit in front of a computer all day and we, for the most part, just sit there and work independently.
Right.
And, I would have a few times a day where somebody would ask me a question, but, the answer was always, well, we want to have that face-to-face with our customers, which, our customers work within our company. It's just a different group that comes to us. That's our customers. And one thing COVID has definitely shown us is that, hey, it's possible to be productive and still work from home.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people.
Before I started working for the company I work for now, I had worked nights from home for 9 years and was very productive doing it. And so I already knew it was possible, but it was having people within the company be able to see that, hey, this is still, we're not losing anything because we people can still come to me and ask questions. We can still collaborate.
Yeah, they call you a lot.
We've got government Zoom. We've got Skype. Yeah, we can, I can, if I'm having to do tech support from, from my peers, I just take control of their computer through Skype.
It took y'all like a month to get things figured out.
Yeah.
But then it was fine. And so now they're like, what? They're saying maybe when they go back to the office, y'all go in 2 days a week or something?
Yeah, they're pretty much saying 3 days a week. They'd like us to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah. Yeah. And like maybe alternate taking some Fridays off. But anyway, I mean, that's better.
Yeah.
That's better. It's definitely been good being home with your stuff that I don't have to worry about you having issues, and I can stop for a few minutes and help you when I need to.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're fully vaccinated?
Yes, I'll be 2 weeks tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Because you're not fully vaccinated until it's 2 weeks after.
Right.
Don't just go out and see and hug your grandparents. Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet, but I can't get it until April 12th, which is 2 months after my last infusion. So it's fine. I'm not going anywhere. Steven's not going anywhere. It's just how it was. It's fine. So anyways, hope y'all are all doing good.
Let us know. How's your pandemic journey been?
It's almost over. We're so close, y'all.
1 year ago today, we were at U.S. Soccer.
Yeah, we're recording on March 11th, 2021, which is the night that the NBA shut down and everything started shutting down. So, yeah.
We actually got that news at the match. Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. But anyways, let's go back even further to September 1988. That was my segue. Was it good?
I could tell, yes. It was a segue.
So yeah, even though our last book was a Babysitter's Club book, I gotta come back with it. It's our bread and butter.
All right.
So we start with back at number 16 with Jessi's Secret Language by Anna Martin.
Which one is Jessi? Yeah, I've done forgot them all.
You've done forgot them all?
I've done forgot them all.
She is one of the younger ones that just came in, and she's the black one.
And what was her friend's name?
Mallory.
Mallory, okay. Mallory Pugh. Yeah.
Mallory Pugh?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but will you give us a dramatic reading?
Need a babysitter? Save time, call the Babysitters Club and reach 6 experienced babysitters. Christy Thomas, President, Marianne Spears, Secretary, Claudia Kishi, Vice President, Dawn Schaefer, Treasurer, Mallory Pike, Junior Officer, and Jessica Ramsey, Junior Officer. Jessi knows a secret language. Oh, wait a minute. Exclamation point. Jessi knows a secret language!
There we are, back at it.
She learned it from Matt Braddock, the babysitter's newest charge. Matt's been deaf since birth, and he uses sign language to speak. Since Jessi's Matt's babysitter, she has to use sign language too. Soon all the kids in Stony Brook want to learn to sign, which keeps the babysitters busy. Jessi's the busiest of all. She's working on another super secret just for Matt. Will Jessi be able to keep the secret and pull off her special event? Of course she will! She's a member of the Babysitters Club!
Yeah! Describe the cover for me real quick. What do you see?
So it looks like a Hispanic boy that's teaching a smaller Hispanic boy sign language.
How old would you say that bigger one is? Not knowing this is a book about teenagers.
Yeah, like I would say probably 16, 17.
Oh, see, I think she looks like 25.
Oh, okay.
This girl is 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so just wanted you to enjoy that.
The model clearly wasn't 11. Mm-mm. Okay.
Yeah. So, we start off okay, keep in mind this is Jessi's very first book. And her very first line is, I happen to be very good at languages. It's like, wow, great start for your first book. Not at all assholey or anything at all.
Not talking about somebody else.
She said, my family and I went to Mexico on vacation. And during the week we were there, I practically became bilingual. Fuck you, Jessi. So I'm having to take Spanish. And man, I am so bad at it. So that got me a little salty right at the beginning. And I like Jessi. You know, I like her name. I like the ballet stuff. It's just, I do like her. But it's just not the best start.
Yeah. You know, I've as well taken 2 years of Spanish and am very non-bilingual.
Yeah.
But I guess if you immersed yourself in it, you would at least know
I guess
the things you would say typically, you know. Not like holding conversations, but...
Well, she was there a week.
And she's basically...
practically bilingual, so... and she also wants to make sure you know that she is so good at ballet and has long, long legs. It's like the worst start, but we like her, I promise. So she introduces us to her family, her mom and her dad, and her little sister, Becca, and her little brother, Squirt. He's like a toddler. And she would also like you to know that her family is Black. She says, I know it sounds funny to announce it like that. If we were white, I wouldn't have to, because you would probably assume we were white. But when you're a minority, things are different. And it's like, you know, I really appreciate that paragraph. Pointing out to little kids that you know, that the default in your head is white.
Right.
And she says it so, you know, just flat out like that. I really appreciate that. It's like, wow. A little bit woke there, Anne. Great job. I also really appreciate her family. They're probably like the best adjusted in the entire series.
Yeah.
Like, they actually care about each other. They pay attention to each other. They interact. She goes to her family, especially her mom, with problems. It's buck wild for Stony Brook. And she gives us her little backstory about how her family used to live in like a multi-ethnic neighborhood back in Oakley, New Jersey. And a lot of her family lived on the same street. And people have been a bit racist since they moved to Stony Brook. She's like one of 3 kids or something in the whole school that's Black. And yeah. But she found a babysitter. Right. So it's getting better, I think she said.
Got to find your people wherever you are.
Right, yeah. But don't forget, she's an amazing ballerina, and she has auditions for Capella, the ballet, which is about this doll maker who makes a doll, Capella. She's like life size, and she comes to life. And this dude, like, falls in love with her. But, he's supposed to marry Swanhilda, who is the actual, like, main role. And so, you know, shenanigans occur, but to classical music.
So, how good do you imagine that a Stony Brook ballet production would be?
So, it's actually in Stamford, which is the closest big city. So it's a little bit better than it would be, but yeah, we'll get to the ballet in a few chapters.
I guess I see it as small town vibes.
Yeah.
Coming from a small town.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have people who are good, not necessarily people who are great, typically.
No.
Because they're people who have done it as a hobby for,
right.
10 to 15 years.
Right.
But
we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Okay. But first we got to have our typical chapter 2 intros. And guess what? Claudia's still exotic. So.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and they have some fun at the meeting. Dawn announced that she'd heard that if you were able to touch your nose, touch your nose with your tongue, it meant that eventually, like when you were 18, you would need a very big bra. Well, this was pretty intriguing for all of us, especially Mal and me, who don't need bras at all yet. And even though I didn't see the vaguest connection between tongue touching and bra size. I can do it! I can do it! Christy shrieked. Like, wow. That's not true. She doesn't need a bra yet either. But anyways, I've never heard that rumor.
No.
Nope. But, I mean, I can't touch my tongue. My nose.
Can you touch your toes with your tongue?
Not now. Might have been able to back in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
You miss if I can.
Touch my feet with your tongue? No, I do not want that.
Touch my toes with my tongue.
Yeah, do it.
Let me see. I think I can.
Yeah, see, that's how I was figuring out to do that. Oh, so close. Oh, I did it. Ew.
They're clean socks. Come on.
I don't care. That was gross. But great job. You did it.
See, I've got to find ways of interacting.
That's right. You did a great job. You're right. So, anyways, we hear from Miss Braddock. She's got 2 kids, Matt and Haley. And whoever sits, it's going to be like a couple days a week thing, you know, how they like to set up. And whoever it's going to be needs to learn Amazon, which is apparently another word for just ASL, American Sign Language.
Yeah.
But
I always thought that was weird that there were multiple versions of sign language.
Why?
Because you would think that there would be, like, if you're starting, so you got to imagine
standardized.
Yeah, so you got to imagine somebody came up with this language, like post just communities saying sounds to each other. So, like, there had to have been a thought process going into it. So
really, you think it was one person? You don't think there were multiple people across the lands?
Wow.
Like figuring out how to say things with their hands.
Yeah, and I guess there was probably, and I guess there's been regional sign language anyway.
Yeah.
You know, just like hunting parties going out and you have to be quiet because there's prey around and using different signals to, you know, convey different things. Yeah, I guess I can see that, yeah. But I'm glad I actually thought about that. But yes, I've thought it was weird in the past. I do not think it's weird now.
Okay, well, very good. I'm glad we're all learning here today. Okay, so there's not as much ableism in this book as I thought. But Jessi gets the job, obviously, and she says, "I got the job. I was so excited. Working with a handicapped child sounded really interesting." So, I'm not going to go real hard on that because she's 11 and it was the 80s. Acceptable language has evolved since then. But
while that's true, it still hasn't evolved in all communities. So
no, but
I could still very easily say it was okay for that language for an 11-year-old, but you would hope you'd be able to intervene and say a couple of things.
Yeah. But what's the word I'm looking for? When she says it sounded really interesting, kind of like fetishizes it a little bit. But again, she's 11, so I'm going to let that slide.
And, you know, as somebody who likes to learn, it, you know, could just be, it's something different.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but
I'm excited for that reason.
Yeah. I don't know. Just kind of. But anyways, it's fine. We're not going to go hard on that. But here's where we go. I am going to go really hard on the ballet. Not only in this book, but within the whole series, because I just can't. It's just... So, okay. Her class she's the youngest in her advanced point class. They're 11 to 14-year-olds. 11's young to be doing more than just starting. And there's like physical reasons for that. Like your bones aren't done developing until you're around 10, 11. which means you shouldn't be going up on point and putting all that weight on your toes.
Yeah, that ballet show was explaining that.
Yeah. The School of American Ballet show on Disney Plus. Yeah. Yeah. So for her to be taking advanced point, and for like the 12-year-olds even, it's like, no. And we learn later on she's only taking classes 2 days a week.
Hobby.
It is, I mean, it's basically within good schools, it's basically a rule that you need to be taking 4.5 hours a week of regular technique ballet and then have extra point classes as you're learning.
Right.
Because so that's like 3 days a week of an hour and a half. And it's like, that's just standard. And there are reasons for that. But anyways, so I already have problems. Anyway, so these two girls, Hillary and Katie Beth, were the youngest at 12.
So I'll say that is pretty typical of stuff where, kids are hobby doing things. Like when I started getting Megan, trying to get her interested in stuff, we looked at dance and cheer and Aaron as well. And, pretty much everything was a couple of times a week.
Yeah. And I mean, that's fine. But, Jessi is portrayed as this almost professional. Right. So that's where I have the problem.
Again, I was talking about the small town vibes, and that's
right.
The hobby, people doing it for hobby. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I know, like, where I danced when I was little, in Jacksonville, I know girls a few years ago who were like in high school and taking point and stuff. And so I would see their pictures on Facebook and I looked at the schedule and it's like, no, they were doing ballet like once a week.
Right.
And you could tell in those recital pictures. It's like, oh, y'all are not strong enough to be doing that. Stop.
I remember taking Megan. She wanted to go to a dance class when we lived in Dallas the first time. We were living in Richardson. Mm-hmm. And I took her to the class and she would not go in. And we sat outside for 30 minutes. I was trying to, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I know it's something you wanted to do. So can you be brave enough to go with? Nope. She never was. But we ended up going to Taekwondo instead. So that was,
and she liked that.
She liked it for a little while. She didn't stick with it as long as Erin did. But.
Yeah. And you.
And me. Well, a big part of that, I think, is because she went and started living with her mom. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
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 Yeah. So, right. So those two girls are super jealous. And we also meet Madame Noel, who is very French, and everything is spelled out in the accent, and she calls Jessi Jessica Romsey.
How do you feel about that?
About what? About
writing in accents.
I mean, it's I don't like it. It's pretty irritating in the book.
I like it when it's a good developed character because it gives them a different voice in your head,
Yeah. I guess I could see that. I mean, I definitely guess I heard her when I was little.
Now, if it's a caricature.
So I guess so. It is a caricature, but, it's a book for 8-year-olds.
Right. So,
yeah, I'm trying to see. Well, she throws in random French words, which is fine, I mean, aside from ballet terms, like ma petite and stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, it's very caricature-y written, but again, it is for little kids, so I'll let it slide. Yeah, and so the jealous girls say, because she's new, she's the teacher's pet, and because of that, guess what? Jessi gets Swanhilda. The lead in this super long ballet.
The youngest person in class?
Yes, 11-year-old. Yes. And I mean, you kind of get it from this book, but it makes it even more clear in later books that This is like the most advanced class in the school.
Uh-huh.
Well, so the oldest is 14.
Right.
Okay.
It's a new school.
So, she's upset about hearing those kids call her teacher's pet and stuff. But she actually talks to her mom. And her mom points out, we researched this school and this teacher, and, we made the decision to send you there, on all these rational thoughts and stuff. And it's just so realistic and rational. And it's just like you don't see conversations like that with adults in any other BSC book. So, I mean, it's a wild concept. But she's lovely. We love Mrs. Ramsey. Except for this one decision in a later super special, but we'll get to that. So, first day at the Braddocks. Older sister Haley answers the door. This is the closest we get to a fashion alert. Her blonde hair was cut short with a little tail in the back. Very in.
A rat tail.
Okay.
I actually knew people in school that had those.
I did too, but never a girl.
Never a girl.
Yeah. So, anyways, Haley's cool though. Not because of her little rat tail, but so Matt's not home yet because he goes to a different school in Stanford. But Mrs. Braddock and Haley are like explaining things to her, and one thing Mrs. Braddock says, one thing you ought to know is that not everyone agrees that the deaf should communicate with sign language. Some people think they should only lip read and, to assimilate better. And that is something I've learned on disability Twitter. That is a very contentious point within the deaf community. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have enough to speak on it myself, but yeah. So Mrs. Braddock teaches her some basic words. Matt comes home. He seems super cool. Then she hangs out with the kids to get to know them a bit. Matt wants to read, and Jessie's like, well, how am I going to get to know him? And Haley's like, well, why don't you get to know me? And Jessie says, that one annoyed look said a lot. Something was going on between Matt and Haley, I thought, but I wasn't sure what. What a mystery. Next chapter starts with Marianne writing Brat, Brat, Brat. Do you remember her name? You know who we're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah, the one who's really not bad, but everybody thinks she is for some reason.
Yes, because she likes to dress up.
Because
and
she's
stay
a
clean.
Caricature.
Yep, Jenny Frezioso.
Okay.
And then Jessie said something like, how many kids do you know who get afternoon snacks in the dining room? It's like, calm the fuck down. That's judgy as hell.
Probably 50%.
Well, I mean, they're like
some parents
normally in the
do.
kitchen or whatever, but, at the dining room. So Jenny doesn't want to do anything, but Marianne just cannot stand for this. It's like, why? Just let a kid chill. It's always got to be a fucking adventure or activity or something. But so they go for a walk, and they meet Jessie and the Braddocks. And remember, Jenny's 4. She doesn't understand. So Matt sees a bug and he laughs. And Jessie said his laugh was a cross between fingernails on a blackboard and a goose honking. I have to admit, it was one weird sound. Jenny cringed against Marianne. Let's go, she whispered. He's weird. I don't want to play with him. And then Marianne's just like, we better leave. I'm sorry, Jessie. And this is why they call her a brat.
Because nobody teaches her right from wrong.
Exactly. I mean, they didn't explain it to her, I mean, she's 4. She's 4. She's not a brat. She's 4.
Yeah.
So, First real job at the Braddocks with the mom being gone. So they go over to the Pikes. And the Barrett kids are there. And it's kind of weird at first. You know, they don't know Matt. They've never seen anyone use sign language. But Jessi explains it's like a secret language, which makes it cool. And so Haley begins teaching everyone. Everybody gets like really into it. And Jessi's, tells Mal, your brothers and sisters are great. And she says, when you grow up in a family as big as mine, you end up being pretty accepting. The fuck you do? Have you seen Fundamentalist Family? I mean, that sounds nice. I get where you're coming from, Mallory, but that's not across the board.
For sure.
We get an annoying 2-person diary entry between Mallory and Dawn. And they're like yelling at Jessi. They're acting like she's done some terrible thing. But she's just gotten the kids interested in making up their own signs. They make up things like banana brain and stupid head, but they're not doing it mean. But they're like, what have you started, Jessi? Anyway.
So they're making sign language portmanteaus.
Basically, yes. But Jessi's all excited because, it means like, oh, they're going to be open to being friends with Matt. And that's awesome. We go to a Capella rehearsal. And all Madame Noel says to Jessi is excellent work, which thrills Jessi. But that would never happen. And you shouldn't want that to happen. Like, you want to get notes, especially in ballet.
If there's no feedback, that means they're not interested in it.
Exactly. So, yeah. So after class is one of the saddest scenes in the series, I think. Jessi has to wait a little bit for her dad to pick her up. And Katie Beth is also there in the waiting area with her little sister Adele, who is deaf. What a coincidence. She signs to Katie Beth that she needs to go to the bathroom, but Katie Beth doesn't respond. She just looks embarrassed and uncomfortable and looks away. So Jessi steps in and is like, signs to Adele. Bathroom's just down the hall, and she's like, what's the deal? And it turns out this 9-year-old lives at a deaf boarding school in Massachusetts, and when she's home, her family doesn't know how to sign. What the fuck? And so, yeah, Jessi, of course, talks to her when she comes back, and Katie Beth is left out. And so Jessi's like, now she knows how it feels. But she teaches her how ASL can be like dancing, using your hands to, using your body to communicate.
So she's got one of those families that thinks that it's that it shows a lack of moral character, that you have a disability.
Yeah,
and therefore
maybe.
There's, it's all up to you to overcome that.
That's what it sounds like. This girl's 9, and the fact that her family doesn't know how to sign bathroom or basic things like that,
that's
poor
tragic.
Child.
Yeah.
So we get a painful Claudia notebook entry. She sat for the Brewers, and she distracts Karen from scaring everybody with a ghost party that's happening on the 3rd floor, apparently, by telling them all about ASL. They call Jessi to learn some words over the phone, which sounds super difficult. But apparently Jessi can explain. She got a dictionary. So. And Karen just wants to know things like ghost and witch.
Yeah, no internet on brand.
No internet. Can you imagine just learning that from books and other people? Wow. Let's see. Matt's playing baseball with the Pikes and Buddy, and that's awesome. And the other boys just like automatically start signing, and it's super cool. And Jessi's thrilled. And Haley is happy for him, but she talks to Jessi and about how like she does indeed have some feelings about resenting him. She even says, sometimes I wish she'd never been born. Parts of this book are great. I really appreciate this paragraph too. I was a little surprised at what Haley had said, but when I thought about it, it made sense. I tried to be matter of fact. After all, her feelings were her feelings. They didn't make her a good or a bad person. It's like, way to validate those feelings, Jessi.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of something I heard on the radio earlier today. It was like, I hope everybody's doing well, and if you're not, that's okay too. Or something about mental health. But I hope everybody's whatever it was. And it was weird to hear on the radio.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, I see that on my highly curated Twitter feeds and stuff. But yeah, that's nice. On just a Dallas radio station? Yeah. Wild. So Jessi learns that Matt has never even been in a theater. She is shocked. Aside from like ASL plays that are put on at his school. And then Jessi remembers that she can feel the vibrations of music, like through the floor and stuff. And she has a great idea. TM, 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 TM. The next meeting, she, tells the other girls how the Braddocks are doing and begins teaching them all some finger spelling. And then we started talking about our families then. We do that sometimes when we're not lining up jobs or talking about club business. We sort of take turns saying what's going on in our lives. Like friends, Jessi? It's so fucking awkward. It's like, wow, what a concept. Then we get to, because Christy is sharing a bit about her life with her friends. She talks about her mom and says, she's been talking about babies and like she knows she's not pregnant because she's been saying she wishes she were pregnant, but she thinks she's too old. And Dawn says, yeah, but how old is she? She's like, I don't know, 37 or something. And she could still get pregnant. But anyway, that is it's the first time we hear about Christy's mom wanting a baby. And it comes in later in a fucked up way. But let's see, that's in like 8 books. So anyways, Mrs. Braddock calls and has Mal tell Jessi that it's all arranged. But Jessi can't tell the others what that is yet. So, that goes over well. But she does ask them all to come see Capella because each dancer gets 10 free tickets for opening night. Like, bitch, like hell
for
you do.
For community ballet?
No. This is a school performance.
Yeah.
That's the only way you make any money at all. That's ridiculous on a professional level.
Yeah. I mean,
10
you wouldn't even get free for your parents unless you were probably like in like a large ballet. Like if you had I was gonna say if you had like a main part in like the New York Ballet, you probably get tickets to get your parents in to watch you.
No, you don't.
You don't think so?
No, they said it on that show.
No.
Yeah, their parents have to pay. I know in like Broadway and stuff, like you'll get like maybe 2 tickets for a performance. And then after that you can get discounted. But if you're in like Hamilton or something, that's still practically impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah. For a school performance, they're not making money off the public coming.
Right.
Because they're not.
They're making it off of the families coming.
Anyways, ridiculous. But, the numbers just work out. So, anyways, the girls are overly excited.
Convenient plot point.
Yes. They're like, oh, going to the ballet. Oh, what am I going to wear? And all that. But the thing that's all arranged is Mrs. Braddock takes Jessi to Matt's school one afternoon. And Jessi explains to the kids in his class how she's a dancer and has a show coming up and invites them to come. She knows not all of them can hear it, but that everyone can feel the vibrations and, just enjoy watching the dancing and the sets and all that. Christy sets for Becca and Squirt, and Becca's glad she's not faking, meaning faking being nice, meaning not being racist. Christy's like, yeah, I know about, people in a new neighborhood not liking you. And Becca's like, didn't like you? But there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, you're not deaf or anything, and you're white.
Wow.
She's like, yeah, being called names still hurts, though. Becca said that. And Christy asked her, no. But it doesn't help to know that you're not the only one who doesn't fit in sometimes. And Becca's like, a tiny bit. It helps a tiny bit. Christy goes, I guess a tiny bit is better than nothing. Because nobody feels bad for you and your newfound privilege in your rich neighborhood, Christy.
Right.
So Charlotte comes over, which is great because they're besties now. And Christy says the two of them have been like Siamese twins ever since.
Wow. Come on, Anne. Be better.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I probably didn't know in 88 that was not a thing to say anymore. Or that Siam was not a place named that anymore. But again, I was 6. So, I don't know. Did you know in 88 that you weren't supposed to say Siamese twins anymore?
Okay. I come from a very racist family.
I know. I know. And East Texas. Yeah, all right.
So, no, I did not know you were not supposed to say Siamese anymore.
Conjoined twins. So, it's opening night. Haley and Mrs. Braddock narrate a little bit before each act. Haley speaks it, and while Mrs. Braddock does it in ASL. So all the kids can get more out of it, which sounds like a great idea anyway. Jessie's performance is perfect, of course. And Katie Beth's parents brought Adele home for the weekend.
Do all the other kids love her now?
Yes.
Like Rudolph, he just did such a great job. So
yes, everyone comes up and tells her how wonderful she did, and yep.
Okay.
Anyways, Adele's home for the special performance, and Katie Beth tells Jessi, "Guess what? I'm learning how to sign. There's a class at the school Matt goes to. I found out about it all by myself. Mom and Dad aren't taking it, but I started anyway." What kind of fucked up, shitty parents are these? I am so angry at them. They'd never asked Adele to come to any show of Katie Beth's before either. This is the very first time. It's like, this poor child, I would like to adopt her. But anyway, there's lots of happy tears and flowers after the show. And, from the babysitters and all that. But then there's extra tears because Keisha, Jessie's cousin and best friend who shares the same birthday as her, came up from Oakley with their grandparents. And so that's super exciting, but a little bit awkward with Mallory, her new best friend, for like 2 seconds, but it's fine. This is a pretty long book, so they didn't have that much time to get into drama at the end, I guess. The Ramseys take everyone out to eat. Like, everyone. They go to this diner. So most of the girls just get dessert. And Jessi says, I was dying for cherry cheesecake, but I ordered ambrosia instead. Which is like, that sliced up fruit in like Cool Whip and shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I asked the waiter for whipped cream with it, though. I didn't want to be a total nerd. It's like, this is some body issue stuff that I'm not down with, I know. And they do go into that later.
What part of that makes you a nerd? I mean, I don't think...
Because she's eating healthy. And, they make fun of Dawn and stuff. But, hers is because she's trying to stay healthy because she's a ballerina. And I don't like that. I think that's a pretty terrible message. For a kid's book, a kid's girl's book. And, yeah.
And yet we continue seeing it.
And after a performance like that, girl, you don't care. You need those calories.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, big yikes on that. But you know what? Matt and everyone else is very happy. So, the end. So, I like to even if I have the physical copy of the book, read a version of it on the computer so I can copy and paste and stuff. And the one I found was the British version, which typically has, I've shown you some of the covers. They're terrifying and awful, but this one's actually better than the American. But anyways, there are some differences between the two versions. Like, instead of president, it's Chairman Christie, which just, it didn't sound as bad when I just said it, but reading it makes me think of like a dictator.
The Communist Party.
Yes. And I'm like, well, that's actually quite fitting.
Right. Chairman Mao and Chairman Christie.
Yeah. All the moms are changed to mum or mummy, which is pretty cute. Doomsday is called Subs Day, as in like subscription, I guess. Like I don't know.
In dues.
Yeah,
okay.
like paying your dues. You know, like putting that 50 cents into the treasury. Yeah. And then Claudia offers a biscuit and a cake.
Okay.
During, but what it actually is ring ding and a double stuffed Oreo.
Wow.
Although it's backwards. She offers the biscuit first and the cake next, but in the book is ring ding first, which would make sense as a cake. And double stuffed Oreo, that is a cookie.
Right.
Biscuit.
That's good.
But anyway, yeah, it's weird. Anyway. It was kind of
weird
fun.
That they wouldn't have some kind of brand equivalents. You know, not the same, but some other snack cake brands that they could use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. So, anyways, welcome back to Stony Brook. Things are weird as ever. So, what are you reading?
So I've got one actual physical book. So I put on hold a bunch of books from Goodreads that were on the list for best, like sci-fi book of the year of 2020, things like that. And so it's called, I will say as a starter while I'm opening this up, I read Ready Player 2.
Oh, yeah.
Was pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was. I think it was very sloppy writing.
It just feel like added on because it like Ready Player One got a rise in popularity because of the movie.
Yeah.
And just cashing in on that a bit.
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, he wrote the book, he finished the book, and that was, and then he tries to put more of the story in, but he tries to kind of do some of the same things, but they've already finished that puzzle, but here's a new puzzle, but let's do some more memorabilia, that was part of the whole thing, was
all the nostalgia and all that.
Nostalgia with, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
which,
so,
I mean, we all get, that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
But,
It was
Did it feel forced?
A lot of it was, and there were very long portions of it where there just wasn't a lot of action going on. Whereas in Ready Player One, it was like there was constantly, it was a pace to it, and it was moving, and like there was a full long sections where just one thing was kind of happening, and all it was trying to force memorabilia on people rather than an actual story and action.
Yeah, that sounds very forced.
That's the book I was most excited about coming out. But no, not that great.
Yeah, I saw just a couple of reviews on Goodreads, and I was like, I think I'm going to skip it before you had even read it. I was like, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I did want you to read it for yourself. But.
So the one I'm reading is The one I'm reading is Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits, a novel. It's the first book of a Zoe Ash series. And I'm pretty, I'm like 25% done with it right now. And it's kept me interested. So, I'll keep reading it. Seems good so far.
What are they doing?
Well, it's kind of one of those Harry Potter type situations where an extraordinary person suddenly finds out they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
And in her sense, she's a 23-year-old, I think, who lives in a trailer house with her mom. Mm-hmm. And, they have a very raggedy kind of truck. Mm-hmm. And she, it starts off with her just going to eat. And it's in a time when there's automatic driving cars and her car's not functioning correctly, so it's not making the right turns. And you start getting narration from somebody who's been watching her, somebody who's been like basically stalking her. Mm-hmm. And they're following in their vehicle, and they're kind of narrating and saying, does she know I'm back here? Because she was making like multiple left turns or something like that. And anyway, you end up finding out there's like a bounty on her head to basically murder her. And and it's because of her natural father, and who ends up being. So she ends up traveling to this city called Terrorists. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it sounds very much like a futuristic Las Vegas type place where it's just a city out in the middle of nowhere that is very technologically advanced. There's very little law enforcement that goes on, so it's kind of like anything goes type city. And apparently her father is one of the major people in this, or was one of the major people in this city. He's died, and he's left his fortune and everything to her. So now all of a sudden she's one of the most rich and powerful people, but she had to go through a lot of shit before she started getting the power of being that kind of person. Right. And that's about where I'm at right now in the book. And she's just finally gotten a little bit of control over what's going on in her life over this very rough kind of couple of days of people trying to murder her. And
it's a problem.
Yeah. But set in the future a little bit. But anyway, it's good. Yeah. Then I got a couple other side books that are going on that I'm listing on audio. One's The Unladylike Profession. An Unladylike Profession, which is talking about women in war journalism.
Ooh, fun.
And kind of some of the first ones to go into that and become recognized for their work in.
That sounds good. Yeah. All right, so I want to talk about the last two I finished because they both like really hit like a bunch of my wheelhouses. Lines of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis and The Paris Library by Janet Skelsling Charles. They both take place in libraries. They both go back and forth between two different time periods.
Oh. The same library?
No.
Okay.
No. But, no. One is the American Library in Paris, and one is the New York Public Library. The Paris Library is also in World War II.
I know nothing about that library.
Well, so apparently what I gathered from this book, I didn't look into it, and I should, is that like all the countries have like different libraries in like the big cities and stuff, because like they mention like what other, like the Polish library or something, I don't know, but anyways, that's in World War II, so which is another one of my wheelhouses. And so it's obviously in France, and it begins in 1939, and Odile begins working there. But then the Nazis come in, of course, and so they're like protect the books, and their patrons
they were big on book burning.
Yep. Yeah. So they try to protect all, the valuable ones, and and still try to get books to like their Jewish patrons, because they're not allowed in there anymore. And kind of protect them in general. There's a real found family feel between the regulars and stuff. It's very nice. And then in the 80s in America, she lives next door to 12-year-old Lily, who starts learning about Odale's past and, coming of age sort of stuff over there, too. Anyways, it was very good. And the lines of Fifth Avenue. So this is true. From when it opened until like the 60s, I think, there was an apartment for the superintendent in the library.
Yes, I've actually seen some pictures of. There was a documentary, I think, that I was watching that was actually going up in there and showing there's still ones that are intact.
Yeah.
Some of them are in very bad repair.
Sure.
Yeah. But
they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, but they had somebody who would keep a fire going or something like that.
Oh.
That was in charge of keeping it going like all night long or and so they literally stayed there in the library.
Well, this one, he's a superintendent, he's in charge of, the building and like overseeing all the other people who, like janitors and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so yeah. So there was
of an apartment building.
It was talking about this one lady was talking about she was becoming the superintendent of the New York Library, and they were asking if she wanted to go see the apartments, and she had no idea what they were talking about when she first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So definitely something you need to watch if you haven't seen.
Yeah. So anyways, it starts with this family living there in 1913.
Yeah, so you can go on and see the actual one.
But in the book, some of the valuable books have started disappearing. And then there's women's rights and suffrage and all that thrown in there too, because it's 1913. And so that whole part is absolutely fascinating. And then the granddaughter, that's not a spoiler or anything, she works there as a librarian in 1993. And so she's got to figure out, the mystery and her family secrets and all that. But anyways, yeah, both those really hit my wheelhouses.
Yeah, nice.
And then right now I'm reading the song Spider-Man by Glenn Berger. It's about the amazing clusterfuck of the musical.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I'm finally reading, because I remember following along with it as things were happening and we were getting the reports of somebody almost dying and stuff. But anyways, this guy was, he co-wrote the book of the musical with Julie Taymor, the director, who, directed Lion King. And so she's a fucking genius. And so this shouldn't have happened. But yeah, so it's really interesting. It's a bit of,
were they just trying to do stunts that were beyond the capability at the time?
It was partially that and money, and the book sucked. The story was confusing. But yeah, they were doing... the one where the guy almost died, it was just truly an accident. But, like, he's supposed to go jumping off a thing and then, like, hanging there. And he said that the guy, one of the stagehands, he would put the light on his head so he could see it, and then clip the cable, I guess, to a hook, that would keep it there. And then by that time, the actor was backstage and he would clip the other end to him. But he had to fumble for his light one day and didn't do step 2, which was clipping it to the, wall or whatever. And so he went running off this big thing, and he was supposed to get caught, and he did not. And he fell 30 feet down into the orchestra pit.
Wow.
Yeah, he broke so much in his body. He's really lucky he didn't die.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he did it so right in front of one of the lead actresses, and she could not continue after seeing that because she was traumatized.
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, it was all this hugely big technical stuff, But that actually doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, that was just human error. Mm-hmm. But they shouldn't have been doing all this stuff anyways. Anyways, it's fascinating. Yeah. He's very into himself, and he was working with Bono and The Edge, who did the music. So, you know, yeah, he wants to make sure you know that. But they are a big part of the story, so it's very long though. Mm. It's very interesting. And then I'm also reading Crusade for Justice, the autobiography of Ida B. Wells, and that's partially for my final project for government.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going more slowly through that, but it was actually something I'd wanted to read, so yay. So yeah. Next book. I'm going to go see what my girl Anastasia's up to. Miss her. Mm. So we're going to read Anastasia, Ask Your Analyst by Lois Lowry. I'm going to read. Excuse me. Right. So find us on Twitter and Instagram at Fighting Over the Card Catalog. On YouTube, we have full episodes up where you can read the closed captioning if that's something you want or need. I got rid of the website because that shit costs money. But we've got our link tree in our Instagram bio that has everything else. You can find me personally at Just Digress on Insta and Twitter. It's not as angry as it used to be because, you know, we got a new president. It's still pretty angry, but not as much. So, right. And as I said earlier, we still have a lot of downloads, which is awesome, but we have yet to get any new reviews on Apple Podcasts. Shout out to Margot's evil twin for still being our only reviewer. We love you, girl. So yeah, please go do that, everyone else. Or hit us up at the other places and let us know if you're glad to have us back or pissed at our extended break or whatever.
How your crazy pandemic has been.
How's your crazy pandemic been? And also, we're totes open to any suggestions. Now that you've heard our first episode with Steven not reading the book. Yeah.
They're probably like, it doesn't make a difference.
Maybe so. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much for listening. We're rereading the books of your childhood.
So you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.